Team performance challenges. Some of the things that are going on right now in the workplace. Workers today. Okay, and when we started this presentation, some of the aspects that we looked around the transformation that Andy mentioned in the introduction, we started back in 2005, and we started seeing a change going on in the American workforce. It's actually been the same in Canada, most of Europe, and now we're seeing it global. And we started seeing changes that were becoming in somewhat generationally, but especially due to a lot of the technologies. And this is one of the most startling facts, and it has not changed due to the recession, and that is, most 20-somethings coming out of college and the kids that are in college today are going to have 10 to 14 jobs by the age of 38. It's a job about every 1.5 to 2.5 years. And I remember doing a presentation with a stat similar to that back in 2008, 2009, and somebody saying the recession will snap them into line. They just got to get knocked around a little bit and be poor for a little while. It hasn't. Highly creative young generation, access to technology that usually only the wealthy had, and they can do amazing things. Their view is, I'll find another job. I'll work 4 or 5 different jobs to give the income that I want to be able to be at. That's a tough fact for most companies. If, as a PM, to lose your workforce, potentially turn it over every 1.5 to 2 years, not just having to hire, which how many of us put the whole recruiting side on our project plans and build that in, which can last 2-3 months, but the knowledge loss. And for most organizations, what they're experiencing now is the culture hit. Because they're losing the knowledge, people who are coming in may not have the same values and principles or beliefs of the people who left. So this has been a big issue that companies have been dealing with, and as PMs, this is probably one of the most startling ones. How do I keep a team engaged? I remember early in my career, back in the mid-90s, where we were doing a cutting-edge technology project, being interviewed by contractors to see if our project was worthy enough for them to be on. How many of us have that problem still? Okay, not many, based on where we've been for the last few years. Another one I want to put up here is that this was taken back in 2012, and the interesting part about this stat is in 2012 we really started to feel we were coming out of the recession. Some psychology kind of flipped us back in economically, but in 2012 more people were leaving their jobs voluntarily than had been laid off at the height of the recession in 2008. Right now, most surveys that are put out there on the workforce are showing between 65 and 72% of current employees and companies are actively looking or wanting to make a move as soon as they feel the economy in their area has turned around. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are like oil and gas capital right now. It's amazing. If you're an engineer or a project manager in engineering, it's incredible what you can do. I work with 23, 24-year-old engineers that are managing a $500 million CapEx at times, capital budget for their projects. They will make mistakes. But that industry's so starved, they're just trying to get somebody out there to the front line. And they're becoming very mobile, which heightens the whole movement, which gets us back to the 1.5 to 2 year turnaround. The other thing that had been out there for a while is our 20-somethings, our millennials, oftentimes in surveys are cited as they want to get promoted every 2 years. How many have had that? A 20-something coming out of college looking for a promotion. They go through college. College now is very much about collaborative project teams. And they come into the workplace, and what do we do with them? Here's your cube, here's your project, good luck, you're on your own. They don't want that. Or better yet, as we'll hear sometimes, this is the job you're going to do. If you do a really good job at this one thing for 2 years, you might get to talk to a customer. Their view is that's not the bill of goods I was sold. And I'm not here to say that what they're wanting to do is the right way or the wrong way. What I'm trying to relate is this is the effect of things that we have done for the past 20 years. We've always done this culturally. We've had things that happen when we're growing up, and then they affect when we come into the workforce. But the difference today is technology allows us to have instantaneous communication, decision-making, and team members at our fingertips. And that's what's different. Okay, so with that, a couple of trends that I then want to bring up that are really starting to hit, and these are kind of now looking a little bit forward. First of all, temporary jobs are massively on the rise. And I don't mean just pure 1099. We're seeing, especially baby boomers who aren't wanting to retire, Not just because of financially maybe getting hit at times because of the 401ks, but because they get bored and they have tremendous experience. We're seeing boomers who will go and find contract jobs to live where they want to live, travel where they want to travel, and provide experience into the workplace. Military hiring. By the way, the other thing on temporary jobs that I just want to mention is, I mentioned 20-somethings. 20-somethings and baby boomers are very similar, even though you may not like that, baby boomers. I used to liken it if tattoos and piercings are kind of like hair over the collar was back in the 70s and 60s. Some of you remember how controversial that was. Both like to be doing a lot of things. And a lot of 20-somethings will have 4 or 5 different jobs, some for money and some for not. But it satisfies their being. And the one thing about the younger generations that we find out there is they do not go to work because it's the best paying job. All right. Google did a great study recently on the younger generation on phraseology. And there's a phrase, and then raise your hand as a parent if you use this with your child going through college or even today. Follow your passion. Find a job that follows your passion. That phrase was not really used before 20 years ago. It used to be, find a good, stable, paying job. Before that, it used to be, follow the profession that your father was in because that's a good trade and you should do that for the family. We change. The younger generation is following their passions, and what they have found is there's nothing they can't do. They just got to find it. And the internet really frees you up for that. Okay?